Are you a loser? Are you a freak? Do you need a lover? Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Don't bother me.
Welcome to another episode of Real Strugglers, where we talk to real filmmakers and actors about their struggles working in the chaotic world of films. Today, our guest is Nithya Menen, who is a super talented actor who's done over 60 films in multiple languages. I know Nithya because we had worked together on Modern Love Hyderabad on one of the short films called Pandemic, directed by Nagesh Kukunur. I just happened to message her when I decided to do this podcast, and without any questions, she just agreed to do it. We'll be talking to her about her struggles while working in films, and we'll also talk about her hiatus that she took between her journey, where she was unhappy with the kind of work she was doing and she had to figure out her life before she could come back to it. How did you start off? Like, when did you figure out you wanted to be an actor?
I don't think I've ever had that process. Oh, I want to be an actor. I never wanted to be an actor. It came to me, like it fell on my lap. I always believed it was destiny, and I really had no say in it. It felt like that. It was kind of just what I was meant to do, I think.
Even as a kid, like, did you have any inclination? I know you sing, so you probably...
I had no inclination towards anything that involved being in front of people, performing in front of people. I did not enjoy attention. So, yeah, kind of like... not very conducive to the kind of personality that I have, which I think is why I'm here, because I think it's a learning. The film field for me has always come. I've come to think of it as a learning for me in this lifetime, or something like that. Something much bigger than just a career or a job.
I was going through your IMDb and stuff, and then I saw that you did a film when you were 10 years old. Like, even that
I was 8, yeah.
Okay, and that just, like, happened?
That's the one that just happened, because, you see, I was from a very, very middle-class, normal family. There was films or something it's not even a part of our lives or something that we would imagine. It was just too far away, And to get a call from some French guys and say, is this Nithya? We want her to play Tabu's sister. And my dad was like, I think you have the wrong number, So yeah, that's how it sort of just landed up.
How did they even find you?
Because apparently a neighbor of mine, when I was 8, it was my first house. It was a small neighborhood. And the neighbor apparently worked in an ad agency. So he saw a picture of mine and he said, this is really nice. Can I take it? My mom said, yeah, okay. Gave it to him. So he took it and put it in the ad agency. It went to a bigger agency, apparently. And that's where these French guys came to sort of look to cast for this movie. That was an Indo-French production. It was shot entirely in India, and it was shot by a completely French crew in English language.
And what about singing? Did you train in singing as a kid?
No.
No?
No, singing was, again, something I just did since I was young. I should have trained. I think if I trained, I could be singing better. I'm completely untrained, so it varies a lot when I sing from time to time.
From your first film that you did as a child and to the film that you did as an adult, what were you doing in the middle? Did you not consider acting at that time?
No, I was in school. So
Okay.
I was in a regular school, so I was doing my own thing. I was having my own childhood, I think. And then even at that time, the film that happened, it happened like this only. Somebody said, they were looking for somebody to pose for a coffee table book called Stark World. It was Kerala. Just took a picture and went. And that book was launched by Mohanlal. So when they were looking for a girl to play, and the girl was considerably younger in age from him in the story itself. So he said, who's this girl? And yeah, this is, so has she acted? But yeah, long back, So they just came and met me. Even that is another thing, that auditions never happened. I've never done an audition in my life. So it was my first film, but there was no time. They were in a last minute thing. So the director just came and met me, spoke to me for some time, just watched me and said, okay. And that's how I didn't know I could act. They didn't know I could act. Yeah.
So
So it's meant to be.
when you got that script, when you had to go on set, and did you have to do any like homework around how you?
I didn't get the script. I was too young to, at that time get a script or something
Okay.
like that. I just went. And then, I don't know. I don't even remember how it happened. I was not at all conscious. I didn't, I don't know how to explain it. But you see, the reason why I may sound very existential about this or too spiritual or something, but the reason is because I really don't know how to explain it. But I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I had no conscious, it was not a conscious thing that I was doing. Now I'm getting, okay, now I have to do this scene. I'm conscious now. Now I am, because, it sets in. But at that time, it just, I don't know, it was just flowing.
When did your process become more systematic then?
Yeah, obviously through the time, you become more conscious. It's like a child, who gets more conscious as you get older, right? A baby's not conscious about how it looks or what it's doing. It's just being. That's what I was. And as I got older, obviously, so many things play. You become somebody, and everybody calls you a somebody. Then you suddenly start becoming conscious. My effort is, the minute I realize that, to go back into that unconscious state. To not think I'm a somebody, or then I will typecast myself into a certain, or I'll push myself into a certain, that I can't get out of because I think I'm a star or something like that. So I consciously make it an effort. It's also not in my nature to sort of, so I just I try to take it lightly, and I try not to be conscious. And I also choose films that push me and that challenge me a little bit. For example, I recently did a comedy, and it was something that I've not done since maybe Alla Modlendi or something like that. But you have to little bit, when it comes to comedy, you have to little bit break your thing and, try and be willing to maybe make a fool of yourself. I liked it because it breaks the ego in you, and it makes you sort of more vulnerable and open as an artist.
So when you treat a comedy, do you also rely on improv, or do you stick to the script, or do you have a little wiggle room when you work? What do you like doing when you...
I personally like to stick to the script because I write myself, and I maybe wouldn't take it very lightly if people just messed around with what I wrote. So I stick to the script because I am an actor in that space. I'm an actor. I'm not a director or a writer. So I don't like to change the course of what they wrote. I like to give them what they wrote and make that amazing. That is also a quality of an actor which a lot of actors don't realize. They feel like they need to bring a lot of themselves into it. But to really understand the vision of a director and to be able to deliver that beautifully is, I think, what an actor should do. Because end of the day, the vision is the director's. It's not yours. But your perspective is very important as an artist. Your intelligence, how you perceive it, how you bring it forward is what we can do as actors. And that's what I do.
If you have a scene where you don't agree with the choice that a character is making, how do you come to understand? How do you break that down for yourself?
So most of the time, I think the good thing is I choose the right people to work with. When I meet people, I already know whether this is the same wavelength or is this going to be... If you pick to be around people that have completely different wavelengths from you, you're bound to clash at some point. But if you know the people have the same kind of thought process towards the work you're doing, then it's no more a clash, it's more of a conversation where they may convince you, you may convince them. I don't know. It's never one thing, but I do express it. But they're my friends. I really like them. The directors that I work with, I'm very close to them. I'm very fond of them. So the conversation will go like that. Like, don't you think this is distracting from the character if I say something like this is not like her? And, maybe he'll say, you're right. Yeah, that's true. This was just brought in the last one. It's fine. Don't say it. Or he'll say, the reason I wanted you to say it because, at a later stage this happened. Okay. All right, fine. Okay. So it's that. For me, it's never about overriding what a director wants. You pick a director and then you trust him. That's my way of going about it. If you don't trust him, don't do the film.
But you probably learned this on your journey while you've been working, right?
I always trusted people. I think this was always my thought process. I did learn in the sense sometimes when I read a really interesting script, I ended up thinking, okay, it's okay. Like I can slightly fine tune this from where I'm standing because I'm the principal character. I can make it happen. But I realized later that can't happen. A person either has the sensibility or doesn't. You can't change it too much, So that I realized. But I think I definitely make that decision before I say yes. So once I say yes, I decide to go with, because it's their vision. And as an actor, it's your job to just bring to life what they have written. It's not yours,
And in terms of the languages, because, for example, I think in English. So when I have to speak in Hindi or in Telugu, I first have to think in English and then translate it. And you speak 6 languages.
Yeah.
So how does that play into when you're performing?
I think in English too. So it would be a dream for me to actually do a character in English, which I did get to do recently. But yeah, it would be amazing if I could do my films in English because then I don't need to think about my dialogues. Also, the knowing 6 languages thing for me, I did it because to make my work easier for me. Because when I did Ala Modlindi, I knew no Telugu, not a word. I couldn't understand a word. So I know how that was. Like, that's a huge thing that is in your mind, and you have to say, okay, I'm literally I'm literally by-hearting the thing and remembering what the sounds are. Ala pattinchukonattuntadu gani. It's like a big... So how do you learn it? Pattinchukonattuntadu. So pattinchukonattuntadu gani. Like that, so your acting, I don't know how I managed it, but you're not able to be at ease and just be natural and do, you have to sort of really pay attention. I think that's where also the way I speak, stressing every word and stuff, that later became as if, oh, that's Nithya's way of speaking. But I think that was because I didn't know Telugu. So that's why I was like, pattinchukonattuntadu gani, because I didn't know the language. So one of the reasons I decided to learn Telugu and stuff is because I didn't want to worry about the language. That's the last thing you want to worry about.
One thing I've noticed, I've worked on a couple of Telugu films, and we've always had this one, if the actor or actress doesn't speak the language, we always have this one AD who is there reading out the lines to them.
Prompting, yeah.
Even not only prompting, just like in the vanity, just going through the lines that telling how to pronounce.
Right.
And what happens sometimes is the actor starts talking like them.
Absolutely.
And
in fact, when an AD comes and they're telling you the lines, I always tell them, you're telling me the lines, don't give me the acting. So it's very important that you do that because they tend to do that. They think that's what they're supposed to do. The environment should be created. That is something that I really miss in working in our films, that people don't consider creating the right environment for an actor important at all. It's not at all part of the process, which is kind of strange because that is the main thing.
Correct.
The lugging the lights around, things around, screaming, that is not
There are multiple ways of doing it.
Yeah, you need to maintain silence, especially if there are some intense scenes. To give the actor space is something that we have still not.
Sync sound at least brings a certain amount of discipline
Yes, it
on
does.
set, but in dubbing films, like
Yeah.
you have people talking on the phone on set
yeah.
sometimes, and it's
Right there, talking right there, discussing.
literally in the actor's eye line sometimes, and it's super distracting.
Looking at you. Yeah.
Or they're just staring at the actor, I mean, it's unconsciously your eye will make contact with someone looking at you, right? So it's super distracting.
There is need for some decorum on our set to understand beyond just the physicality of it. What is actually going on there is a very, very subtle job. You know, it's about emotions. That person there needs to cry, needs to do things that they don't feel at this moment. So you need to create the environment. You need to clear the space and things like that.
Yeah, and if you're going to, like you said, if you're distracted in 1 second because of the chaos going on, how are you going to do a comedic scene when you were just pissed off a second before that?
Exactly.
It doesn't make, and it's a workplace. You don't see people doing this in an office.
Yeah.
So it should be treated the same way.
Yeah. It is a very, very interesting job, this one. Like, it teaches you a lot of things. It teaches you patience. It makes you evolve, I think, as a human being.
Are you liking the type of films that you're picking now?
Yes. Like, after like a long time, like this is one of the first times I'm feeling really, really happy with the kind of work that I'm doing. I'm very happy. Every single project that I'm picking, I'm enjoying. The good people, the sensible people, I'm enjoying doing that. I don't care whether the film does well or not. For me, that final thing means nothing. It's the journey and the every day that counts. And I'm truly enjoying everything that I'm doing now.
But before this came in, was there a period where you were unhappy with the kind of...
Yes.
And how did you deal with it? Because at the end of the day, it is work as well. You have to make a living.
So that's a very... okay, since you're talking about strugglers and all that, I will go ahead and share it. But I think what happened was that, as I said, because it was so unconscious, the way I got into films and what I was doing, so many things were happening around me that I slightly lost control over. So the norms, right? You're supposed to have a manager, you're supposed to do this. And especially in the Telugu industry, you know how many rules they have, right? You're supposed to do this, that, this is how you go. There's boxes everywhere. And I think it started to kind of go in that direction where I started getting steadily unhappy with myself and with life, and I was really, really unhappy. And the first 6 years of my life in films, that is, the first 6 years that I did films, and they were all very, very, very successful years. But I was so extremely unhappy as a person. I just hated it. I hated every day of it. I hated every minute of it. I felt like I was in a jail, like I couldn't get out of this. And why am I doing this? I hate it so much. The few people I used to talk to say, if you hate it so much, why are you doing it? I don't know. Like, I didn't even want this. I wanted to be a wildlife filmmaker, and I want to go somewhere away from all these people. And, I wanted to go where there's nature. I wanted to go in the water. I wanted to be in silence. My liking was that silence and, nature. And here I am in a job completely the diametrically opposite to that. Noise, chaos, egos, everything is superficial, showing off, makeup, this, that. Everything is the opposite. So I was just so unhappy. And I reached a point where the good thing with me is, since I was never desperate to be in films, or I was never desperate to be an actor, or it didn't mean so much to me. Like when I hear people who say, I work so hard, I'll do anything to just get that one film. I'm not like that. So life matters more to me. And I was very aware, so I realized I'm not okay. So I paused and I said, okay, I'm not okay. This is not okay. I'm not liking the way anything is going. I'm not happy. So I paused and I took a break and I decided, no, things need to change. I didn't know what to do or how to go about it, but I did take a break. That break was what was a paradigm shift. It changed everything because then there is self-discovery, there is an understanding of what you want, what do I want to do, and all of that. It is a very spiritual process. It's a spiritual in the sense, I mean, about you. This spiritual doesn't mean anything else. It just means
Understanding yourself.
yourself. So that was the process. Why am I unhappy? Actually, I think was the question I started with. I really need to find out why I'm unhappy. So post that break, I was an entirely different person, pretty much 360 degrees different. I didn't get angry anymore. I was not as short-tempered. I was not as sad or unhappy anymore. But that break was the one which was such a big deal in the industry. They said all kinds of things because at that time, for me, nothing was more important. I started to truly live life. I started to feel good. So I started to eat whatever I wanted. And it was the first time I was truly eating, truly tasting everything and all of that. So I just did whatever I wanted at that time. So I put on weight and all of that. There was a lot going on in me, so I'm sure there was a lot of hormonal imbalance in me, which also led to weight gain. So I ended up putting on a lot of weight now. Being an actress and being in the public eye and putting on weight, it was an adventure just to be watched. Like even today, I just watch it. Like I'm like, wow, like what all people make it look like. Oh my goodness. And the pictures, the fake pictures that are all over the internet, with all the fake stuff. And that's it. People, for me, honestly, I just sat back and watched this because my life was so good. I was so happy. So I sat back and I was watching how shallow, how sad, how little people expose themselves. All they want to see when they see a person is their physicality. Even someone like me. Now, I have never sold my physicality. I have never, even with my job, that has never been a criteria. And yet, all that I was worth was my body. It was incredible. I watched everybody. I watched everything. I was very happy. There was a lot going on with me. I was changing into a much better human being, much better person, much happier person. So I knew I was okay. I'll be fine. But so it didn't impact me to that extent. But then people started saying all kinds of things. Oh, I think she's getting married. I think she's pregnant. Oh, she's done, And I had the usual people around you, the typical industry, like the managers and all that. They're very, very shallow in their thought process and everything. So this, everything that I was hearing was, oh, she's done, she's finished, it's over. The kind of roles that somebody told me to do a certain kind of role, which if apparently people are asking for you to do this character, which wasn't really, it was not a match to my age. Things like that. So I definitely came to a point where I thought, oh, I think this is over. I think this is done. I need to think about what else I can do. What can I do now? I had that thought process today when I go back to it. Even thinking that my career was over, it's funny because it can't be. How can it be over? But that's how they'll make you feel. And it means nothing. That's what I want to say. It means nothing. What people say, their thought process, it is so low in value because they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't live a full life. And it is a very, very limited perspective. Very, very limited perspective. I went through a few years of that where I didn't work because of a lot of things. I also wanted to not work because I wanted to think, because this was going in a different direction. When something's going in a wrong direction, you should have the awareness to stop, pause, think. And yes, your compass will go here and there because you're not sure. And then you'll find the right direction and then you'll go. But that intermediate time, nobody gave me that time. They made it into all kinds of drama, Every actor, especially actors, especially creative people, need to be given that time. You need to be able to think about what it is, because otherwise you can never continue to be creative. You can be a star. You see everybody, a lot of people today, they're just struggling to just hold on to what they have. I'm not struggling to hold on to anything because I don't have anything. There's nothing for me to hold on to. Every day I reinvent myself. Every day I do something new. Sometimes I may just go and do a really small film, But there's nothing like that. There is no set thing. That's what makes the job worth doing, every day worth living, right? I can't live my life, trying to protect some image that I've created or...
Which you probably haven't created yourself. It's what the world creates for you.
They create it for you. They make you into something. They treat you like that. So there are times when I've said, don't do that. Don't behave like that. Don't come and put a chair under me every time. I can stand. I'm okay. Everybody else is standing. I can stand. It's okay. You don't have to do that drama. No, it's okay. It's a normal human being. Yes, comfort is required because you're doing a certain kind of job. So sometimes you may need certain things only for the job, but not for your own ego, ever. So yeah, like you were asking, but was there a thing and was there a shift? Yes, absolutely there was. There was a massive shift in how I perceived my own job. After that, I started to actually truly choose the thing. I got rid of everybody in between. And then I did only what I wanted to do. Everybody can talk to me directly and I can decide what I want to do. And I ended up choosing the right people came to me because nobody was filtering it, you see, through their perspective. It was directly me. So then I ended up, now I'm really happy with everything that I'm doing. My physicality means nothing anymore to anyone that I'm working with. Thankfully, it has come to a stage where also our content has changed so much. OTT came in. So the way we started looking at these things changed a lot more. So it all just came together. I'm just a happier person now.
That's the most important thing. If you're unhappy doing what you're doing, maybe you shouldn't be doing it as well, right?
Yeah.
And it's good to actually step back and reevaluate.
Yeah.
When it comes to like persevering through it, like, is there anything, because I know a lot of actors who are friends of mine who have who've given like 300-400 auditions and maybe have gotten 4 roles or 5 roles and small roles. And they keep thinking that, okay, it's time to quit. And then whenever they quit, something good happens. But in the meantime, they feel like shit. And how did you kind of like stop letting that affect you?
I just kept getting more films than I could do, so I never had that problem. It was more of everybody trying to convince me to do the film and me saying, I don't know, maybe not, How do you stop? That's what I'm saying. I think I somehow got lucky because I didn't desperately want it. When you desperately want it, you're struggling, you're suffering. When it's not happening, you're suffering. I really didn't want it. And today, I honestly think that was my superpower. Because I made decisions only that made sense. Not for, making this happen or... So I behaved the way I would behave with anybody. Not the way like you want to be liked by everybody because you want to make this career happen. That is a really sad, desperate place to be in. You should never put yourself in that place. So I did only what I wanted to.
Like, when did you start enjoying what you
I
did?
started enjoying, I would say, after 2019. Yeah, that's when I started.
Recently.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay. And since 2019, every project you've done has been something
Yeah.
that you've been.
that I've enjoyed. Yeah.
And when it comes to producing, how have you produced your first film, right? Skylab. And what was that like? Because you're also acting in it, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're also running the entire show.
The good thing is, the operations wise, I was not running the show. Prithvi was the producer. What happened with Skylab is that it was such a gem of a film that when I heard it and I met these guys, especially Vishwak and Prithvi, two really, really amazing boys. And they, especially Prithvi being a producer and being so passionate about that film, I wanted to help them and I wanted to see this come out. So the decision to produce was part of that. It was just to be able to make the film happen. If I hadn't been on board, it would have probably not taken off and it wouldn't have been feasible at that point. So it was just that. That was how Skylab happened. But when I thought about it, I thought about maybe being able to, with my sensibilities or my way of looking at films, what kind of films do I want to see out there? Maybe I am in a good position to be able to do this. Maybe there are writers out there who it would be easy to talk to me than to talk to a traditional producer, right? Where I'll be able to understand the creative side of things. So that is a good way to produce. So that's one of the reasons I thought I should maybe do that. But I still resist it a little bit. I try to avoid getting into films, deeper into films.
But you said you write as well. So what kind of stuff do you write?
I mean,
Have you ever thought of writing a screenplay or?
I have written a screenplay
Okay.
for a short film that I really wanted to shoot, but I don't know, maybe sometime. I have written scripts. I have not converted them into a screenplay yet. But I write very sporadically in and out of things. And there are a couple of scripts, though, that are a little bit like, I know the beginning, middle, and end, but I have to just sit and write. And yeah.
And when did this start?
I've written since I was a kid. Even before I was acting, I was always writing. So I was always writing poetry. I was always writing stories and all that as a kid. So that is something that I've always done. And I just continue to do. It's just being in films actually stopped me from writing because I didn't have the time. And it distracted me so much. And I was just so unhappy and working non-stop. I stopped writing, actually. It was a thing to say, okay, I should go back to it and start writing more.
And in terms of when you're working with different directors, every director has their own way of working. What kind of method works best with you? Like, do you prefer directors who kind of give you a little more of a free hand, or do you prefer directors who so there's this school of thought with the result direction where you say, I want you to be angry, but there's no justification for the anger. And there's another school of thought where you give a verb, like, I want you to intimidate him, or I want you, like, what works best with you? What kind of directors?
I have no preference. Anything works with me. And that's how it should be. If you want to be happy as an actor or as a human being, you should have no preference. Especially if you're in a job like this, where you have to deal with so many people, day in and day out. Different people. Every 2 months, it's a different set of people. If you have a preference, you'll only suffer. So have no preference. Learn to be like a fish in water. You move with whatever you are. You see the person. Everybody is different. And they have every right to be however they want. who are you to say this is not what I like? Everybody, if you have the freedom to be who you want, others also have the freedom to be who they want. So every director can have his process. He can have his way of doing things. He can have his personality. You're an actor. If you want to be happy actor, you can not judge and say, sure, and work with it, which is what I do. So I really have no preference. Anybody, you can throw anything or anybody at me and I'll be fine because I'll still be like this. I can still do my thing. I understand where they're coming from and I find it exciting. I find different approaches exciting, in fact. It's interesting. It's like a human experiment for me. I just watch different kinds of people. I watch how differently they work. And I adapt to that. I've always been very adapting, so I can easily scan a situation and become a part of it.
And you probably read people pretty well then to be able to judge how to...
I hope so. Yeah. I'm not sure I can understand ulterior motives very easily, but I think I can understand what a person wants. I can understand what, at least in a creative space, what they're looking for.
My last thing is about actors who kind of want to break in, because I understand that in the regional space also is very different, because I think auditions have also become it's very, very new right now, even in Hyderabad. So a lot of ADs I worked with who are much older than me have told me that they never used to audition. They just get a photo, the actor would come, meet the director and hired.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. And now in the the last 3 Telugu films I worked on, we auditioned all the supporting cast for it. So how, for an actor who wants to break in now, like what advice would you give them? How do they start?
So it's very difficult for me to give very practical advice. Do this, do that. I don't know what to do. I didn't do any of it myself.
Yeah.
But if there's anything I would say don't be so desperate to do anything. You try to think, why is it that I'm so desperate? Is it because you want the fame? Is it because you want all the people looking at you and admiring you? Is it that? Because if it's that, try and fix that. Becoming an actor is not a good way of fixing that. But whatever it is that makes you want to be an actor,
Do it for the right reasons.
Too desperate. Don't be too desperate for it, because then you'll just kind of, compromise a lot of your things that you truly are and all that. You'll tend to go too much by what everybody else is saying. It's okay. There is enough and more things in the world to do, Don't be desperate. Maybe be passionate or something. Also, make sure you can act and you're a good actor, At least that one responsibility. I think I should say I'm not a big fan of actors who can't act.
Yeah.
Just please make sure you're a good actor. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even social media kind of like kills people's understanding of what's important also. So it's quite sad.
Yeah.
Can you just recommend 5 films for actors to watch?
Lutera was a really, really good Hindi film. Lunchbox, one of my favorite films. I really like Schindler's List. Kumbalangi Nights, which is a Malayalam film, which I really, really liked. Kantara was a lovely film. Like a commercial film that was so good.
Thank you guys for watching, and thank you so much for coming. And I mean, I was actually super surprised that you came, because I just dropped you a message, you're like, sure, which never happens.
Yeah, I don't even do films like that.
I'm so glad that I got you for this.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
Please watch please like, subscribe, and all the usual nonsense. And see you again next week.